I'm gonna do an experience report on pt141 Bremelanotide, which is a obscure peptide. I think it was made by Pfizer. No, I don't think it was made by Pfizer. Maybe Sandoz Laboratories. Doesn't matter. Completely irrelevant who made it. Anyways, it's an aphrodisiac that is reported to apparently stimulate your sexual hormones directly. This is what I believe is correct. I could be very incorrect here. Rather than, say, with other aphrodisiacs, increase blood flow to your genital area, or say put you in a better mood so you're more likely to have sex, essentially. So yeah, I bought this peptide off the internet. It works in the milligram doses. I've had lower and higher doses, I guess, but it hasn't really made a major amount of difference in the end. It has to start with, but not in the end. But I'll go into that. So a fairly substantial dose for me was probably about 3 milligrams, and a lower dose would be about 1 milligrams really. My preferred method was to snort it. Well, mainly because I've only snorted it. I've never taken it orally, rectally, or injected it. I found that, yeah, when I was on 3 milligrams of this stuff, basically, I thought it was bunk to begin with, because first off, you think that anything this rare is bunk off any supply you buy it off. You just don't think anyone's really selling this stuff legitimately. So, for that reason, I thought it was bunk. And also, it took me a few hours before I noticed any effects at all. Like, for the first hour, I was just waiting, and about an hour and a half in, I just thought, fuck it, I've just been ripped off by a company. Bastards they are, but this is life. It does happen. Random chemical companies and random companies that sell peptides and hormones and shit, they do rip their customers off. There is fake stuff going about. They don't all produce CAS certificates and GCMS standards and such, so yeah, I guess it was what I expected. But then, say about 2.5 hours in, I started to notice that I was just really, really fucking horny. Like, I can't even... I'm gonna try to explain, but it's hard to put my finger on just how excited I was. Like, it was like being 13 again and realising that I've got a penis. Like, fuck, I just remember sort of walking around and looking at any object and being like, and I'm not really into inanimate objects, so for me that was pretty strange. It was like everything, concepts in my head, objects, colours, people, like fucking certain types of textures, pretty much anything could just turn me on. Like, life was just an aphrodisiac at this point. I remember just it didn't feel awkward. I was so horny that when I was talking to people, like, just insane sexual thoughts popping into my head about them, about myself, about the fucking universe, the world spinning on its axis. Just everything just kind of got me off, got me going for no real, like, understandable reason. I knew that the stuff was working, and it was just strange because, like, I'm in a shop or I'm doing my normal day-to-day business, like, just really fucking horny, man. And it was a nice feeling and all. It was just hard to go out on. It was really, really good to have sex on, though. Like, it helped with erections, and I don't think it's because it's a inhibitor of any kind or anything. It's not a PDE5 inhibitor. It doesn't increase blood flow. It was just I was so damn horny that there's no way in hell any physical barrier or any psychological barrier could get in the way of the fucking just hard erections and just final fucking, man. Oh, I just want to have an orgy. Sorry. But yeah, it was just like that. I remember when I was having sex on it, just hours and hours of fucking enjoyment. Every single part of it was just fucking amazing. Like, I've had Viagra and things similar, and I found that, you know, you do a sex act, and after 4 or 5 hours of having sex with someone, it's time to move on kind of thing. You're bored after a massive session like that, or even just after 2 hours or so, you're not horny anymore. But with this stuff, like, I just fucked so much that at one point, I think it had been like several hours, maybe 5 or 6 hours, and I just wasn't able to do anything with myself there, but I was still horny, I was still playing about with the other person. The other person was getting fucking well into it because I was just so into it. It just seemed to rub off, shall we say. But, yeah, it was fucking incredibly potent, and I found after about 10 minutes or so of this insane horniness, I was just back on it again, straight into erection, like, fuck, nothing stops you, there's no wall to it. The only thing is, with this higher dose of this shit, for me, it seemed to last for about a day and a half or so, which was convenient for the first day when it's just a whole day of fucking and then going to sleep. But the next day when you wake up and you've got a fucking function, you know, it's not like there's any anxiety because you're so horny that you couldn't give a fuck what other people think. Like, you're not because you're become arrogant all of a sudden, just because you're so horny that it doesn't matter if you've got any social anxiety. It just turns you on. The idea of your anxiety turns you on. Like, fuck, everything does. But it's hard to function if you're not having sex in that state of mind. Like, you can't, well, I mean, you can do what the fuck you want, but it's not realistic to live life having sex constantly, because you need to eat and you need to do other stuff. I mean, it's great because eating fucking turns you on anyway, but it's hard to do normal functions because you don't take anything seriously. You're just so damn horny that it doesn't fucking matter. You just want to fuck everything. You want everything in you. You want to be in everything. Like, it's just fucked. Like, you can't go to a supermarket because you're there staring at the tins of beans and you're just fucking fondling the ridges and shit, and your brain's just fucking melting. It's like insanely impossible to get out of a place once you're there. Like, you know, you can't. I mean, you can, and go ahead and do it if you want. Stay in a supermarket for an hour, fondling the fucking goods and just not being able to function. So it's not good for normal functionality. It's fucking fun, and yeah, you're horny, but it's not good for that half of the day that you're horny and you don't have anything. If you're planning a 2-day sex session or whatever, fuck, this is a great idea, but it's not good when you have to do shit, not at all. But yeah, so we'll go into lower doses. So with, say, 1 milligram, it wasn't really a thing if I didn't feel as insanely horny. It just, it took longer to get to that level. Like, I felt the start of the effects about 3 hours in and felt just a little bit hornier and thought, okay, this is as far as it goes. About 6 hours in, I started to hit it a lot harder, and I was just as horny as I was before. But it only lasted like maybe 18 hours all in all. So really, taking the lower dose just took a longer time to get that insanely horny, and it didn't last as long. I think it was more convenient in terms of, because I wasn't wasting, a half a day on the chemical where I couldn't function, and it was all devoted to, you know, its intended purpose. It was good on that respect, but it's, I don't know, it's just not as fun as, as just being insanely horny. Touching things and having a near spot orgasm, talking to people and, bits of their voice, just, yeah. Anyways, I'm losing myself to the memories. But yeah, the lower experience wasn't that much different. It just took longer to hit me as hard as the higher experience. It didn't last as long. So yeah, I didn't find any weird feelings too much in particular. Quite a lot of enhanced tactile sensation, but I'm not sure if that was from... Well, I mean, it was probably from the chemical, but I don't know if it was like a particular function of that chemical, or if it's just because I was so horny, I was just more susceptible to tactile sensation, if that makes sense. Did sort of feel like the insides of my muscles were really, really tense and also really, really relaxed at the same time. Not sure what that is, but just something to put out there, I guess. But yeah, I guess my conclusion would be, if you want to have a two-day orgy, or if I want to have a 2-day orgy, it's my personal conclusion for me, sen, because I shouldn't be recommending what other people do with themselves. Yeah, if I wanted a 2-day orgy, I'd just take 3 milligrams of this shit, and yeah, that's 2 days of fucking, basically. As long as I can eat and maybe sleep, if I give enough of a shit about sleeping and my health, then I'll do that. But yeah, it's definitely long time orgy things for me personally. I think maybe for other people it might not last as long, or maybe even longer. I'm not entirely sure. Haven't looked at other people's experiences yet. And if you just want to make 1 day of it, go for a lower dose. It'll take a bit longer, so it'll be a bit more frustrating. But yeah, it's worth the wait, and it's not necessarily better, but it means that you're not spending half a day completely unable to function because you're nymphomanically horny. So yeah, that was my experience report on pt141 Bremelanotide. Hope you all enjoyed it, and goodbye, I guess.